welcome a new hosting member to our team. We welcome Kirsty. Kirsty was diagnosed when she was 18 months old. She's going to share with us a little bit about herself so the community can get to know her better. Welcome, Kirsty, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, thank you for having me. So I'm Kirsty, as Claire said. I was diagnosed type 1 when I was 18 months old. There was nobody else, and still is no one else in the family with type 1. Um, so it was a bit of a mystery. My mum at the time, the same week that she found out I was diagnosed, she found out she was pregnant with my little brother, and I've already got a big brother at 3. That he was 3 when I was diagnosed, so I really don't know how they done it. When I was diagnosed, my parents met a family in the hospital that went to like a diabetes family group. And so it was October when I was diagnosed, and we were at like the Diabetes UK Christmas party. So we've always kind of been involved with different organisations and stuff like that growing up, which has always been really nice. To always have been around people with diabetes. I meet some people that are adults now that haven't met anyone with diabetes, and it always blows my mind. Um, I live in Glasgow. I work in pensions, so I do complaints for a pensions company, and I also work for NHS Scotland on a bank shift basis as a senior peer support worker for the national onboarding team. So it's people starting pumps or going closed loop, um, and then a peer support worker will go along to like their last session and answer the kind of logistical questions about having a closed loop system. Like some of the systems are a bit more cumbersome than others, so give a little advice about how you put your sensors on, what you use, the kind of sticky things and overlays and stuff like that, or what you do if you're going to like an all day wedding or a night out or exercise. Not that I exercise, but I just pretend I do. Um, and that sort of thing. But it's really, really good. And I love being around people with diabetes, and I love talking about diabetes. I was saying the other week at a diabetes event that if they did cure diabetes, I don't know who I would be anymore. It's definitely part of my personality, which I think a lot of people can agree with.
Yeah,
When you've
totally.
had it so long, it's just something fun to talk about sometimes.
Thanks, Kirsty. You've actually answered two of the first questions I'd got. We do what we call a 90-second question section.
Hmm.
Normally, I don't know if you've heard it on any of our previous chats that you've been on. So I'll just move on to the next question. Do you finger prick or use smart technology?
Smart technology. I'm on a Medtronic with a Guardian 4, but I do have a blood sugar meter that I do use just to make sure that everything is right.
Right, that
Because
brings
I
me
mean,
on to my
yeah,
next question. When you finger prick, do you change your lancets every time?
no, I only change it if somebody else wants to use it. Really,
What's your go-to hypo treatment?
I like the like Swizzles mixture bags that have like love hearts, refreshers, Parma violets, that sort of thing. I give the refreshers to my flatmate because they do my teeth in, and I have everything else. But I will like jelly babies and squashums, um, and those little cans of Coke as well. They're good. I like mixing it up.
What do you think is worse, feeling hypo or feeling hyper?
Oh, that's a good one. Honestly, I think it depends on the day because high blood sugars make me really, really grumpy. And if I'm having a bad day with a high blood sugar, it just becomes a terrible day. Whereas lows like stop me in your tracks a bit. Um, and you kind of we make jokes that I'm actively dying. Um, so that sounds so grim. So I'd say it depends on the day.
Okay. What is one thing you like and one thing you don't like about diabetes?
Well, I don't like that you can never escape it. It's always something, even when with the closed loop system and being on the best technology, it's always like floating about your mind, worrying you somehow. My favourite thing about it is the experiences it's brought me and the people that it's brought me, and the fact that it did make me grow up a little bit younger. Does that make sense? Um, I was kind of old before my time, but in a fun way. That could also be a negative thing, but It makes you screw your head on right, I suppose.
Do you love or hate the smell of insulin?
I love it. And I make everybody smell it.
Okay, my last question on this section, just to get to know you a little bit. If you were on a desert island, what three things would you take? All your diabetes kit would be already there, so you don't need to worry about those.
Oh. My phone. Am I allowed my
Yep.
phone? Yep. Okay, my phone. Lip balm. And probably a hairbrush. I get really annoyed when my hair's tuggy. Nothing practical, obviously.
You should hear some of the things that we've heard of before, but that's a different chat. Okay, Flipper, I'm going to hand over to you now to talk about Kirsty's diagnosis and journey.
Hi, Kirsty.
Hello.
Hello. You've done such a good introduction. You've answered a lot of my questions, but I'm going to ignore that and carry on.
Have that, yeah. Ask me again, I might say something different. You never
Well,
know.
exactly. That's something you might sort of embellish on what was happening. As you were 18 months at the time that you were diagnosed, I'm assuming you don't remember any of it, or am I
No,
wrong?
and none of it. None of it. I know I was very poorly though. And I've not even seen any pictures from that time. My mum's kind of hid them all
Uh-huh.
because I looked quite poorly. So no, I don't remember any of it, which is probably for the best.
Yeah. And what have your parents told you about it? Have they
Um,
told you what happened, or?
yeah, they have, yeah. So I was taken to the doctors at about 14 months old because they knew that something was wrong. They knew I wasn't well. And the doctor said it was colic and my mum was being paranoid. And she was sent away and she was treated like a hysterical woman for months until it was like late one night. Um, they woke me up during the night and I wouldn't wake up. I was like out cold. I was at death's door basically.
Mm.
And was like rushed in an ambulance to the local children's hospital, and then was in there for a while. And then it was like when we got home, I think that's when obviously it got worse because they're having to kind of give a baby injections, take a baby's blood sugar, and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Like, oh, I don't know how they done it, honestly.
I was going to say, and it must be such minute doses as well.
Yeah, little itty bitty things, yeah. That would have been, it was at a syringe at the time, so I don't know how they would have done that.
I know Annie, I don't know if you know Annie, Mimi's mom.
I
I
don't
know
think
she
so,
was
no.
saying that you used to dilute the insulin, but you
Oh,
manually diluted the insulin.
gosh, how stressful.
But I suppose that makes sense because if you've
Yeah.
diluted it, at least what you're trying to measure up in a syringe is
Mm-hmm.
slightly bigger. But no, it sounds unnerving, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And so your parents sort of like home with an 18-month-old and a 3-year-old and
Yeah.
pregnant, so
Moving
not
on the way.
stressful time at
I
all.
know.
At all. And all I'm going to say, wow, your mum was brave because she was going to have 3 and the oldest at maximum was going to be 4.
Yeah, I know. I really don't know how she done it. I'd say she kept her sanity, but they really didn't. They're quite mad. Um,
Well, I had a friend like that. And I think actually when she had the youngest one, the eldest one was still 3. I'm trying to think of the but yeah, it was just 3. And yeah, sanity was not a word that
no.
it was madness.
Probably for the best. If you become too aware of what's going on around you, you lose your mind anyway, so why not start
Oh
mad?
no, it must have been awful. So did your sort of parents, did they find, or have they mentioned, did things go well relatively smoothly or as smoothly as could be? Did they settle into it, do you think? Are they that type of person?
Um, oh, my mum was always one for, like, I came with a handbook when I was a child with instructions about how to manage diabetes.
Idiot's Guide
If
to.
she's acting like this is what you do. If this happens, this is what you do. Um, so it was quite funny turning up at people's houses and being like, this is the manual, this is my instruction booklet. You know, don't feed her after midnight, don't get her wet, that kind of thing. So she's an anxious woman, and who can blame her?
Yeah.
But my dad was always a bit more laid back with it. My dad always tells a story about when I was about 3 or 4. Um, I'd been at like a birthday party or something like that. And he was putting me to bed, and I was like, "Daddy, I've got a sore head." And he was like, "That's because you were eating sweets today." And I was like, "No, it's because my baubles and my hair too tight." So like they're good. They can laugh at diabetes, which is nice. We should all laugh at it. That is a bit
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And do you, as you were saying that you came with an instruction booklet, do you remember sort of things being different? And this is something I want to ask you, only because somebody else I know who was diagnosed young, and they said they remember the day that they realised that they were different.
Oh.
Did you have something like? Do you know what I mean? Was there a time where it actually struck you that even though you knew you do things, and the first day it was just what, and I think it's when they were at primary school or something, and they're quite a way in. You know, it wasn't the first day or anything, and then they suddenly realised that actually nobody else did this, even though they knew nobody else did it, but it struck them, and then they realised that their life was just different.
See, and I don't remember it from primary school, but I remember it from when I started secondary school. So it was the summer holidays was when I started a lunchtime injection. So starting secondary school, being at, you know, that awkward age, and being in this huge big school and having to do a lunchtime injection, and people are like, ew, ew, that's disgusting, how can you do that? And then I remember thinking like, oh, I'm disgusted. Why do I have to do this? Which is quite sad, really. Children are horrible creatures at times.
But it is true, because I remember going from 2 injections to MDI, and when you're on 2 injections, to be honest, it just didn't really interfere with your day.
No, yeah, it didn't. No.
And I know you had to eat to a timetable and whatever, but it is true, isn't it? In some ways, it complicates life, even though you've got the HCPs telling you, oh, and you'll be able to do this, and you'll be able to miss meals, and you'll be able to do that. And then you look back and you think, oh, it's a bit of a faff.
I do sometimes wonder what it would have been like if I'd have had a sensor on when I was on the kind of 2 mixed injections a day, and what my blood sugars were actually doing. Because I know you would fill out your blood sugar book, and you would see somewhat of a pattern then, but it's not really an accurate pattern, I suppose.
No, and if you're anything like, I don't know how old you are, but if it was, so I'm talking about, well, just under 30 years ago, because I'm 30 years in, they didn't even tell you to check your blood sugars that often.
No.
Do you know, it was,
No.
because there was nothing you could do anyway.
No. So I'm 33, so I remember having meters that took like 2.5 minutes to check your blood sugar. So I feel like now if I had to wait 2.5 minutes, I would instantly want to do it again, because I'd feel like it would almost be like it would have changed.
Yes.
Especially if you've got like a rapidly dropping or rapidly rising blood sugar, which you wouldn't even know back then because there was no arrows, which seems so like, remember the time before arrows?
It is weird, isn't it, when you think back how many years that you survived quite happily with so little, and now you get jittery whilst your senses warming up.
I know. Those 2 hours are the worst hours of my week.
So did the friends that you have, were they quite accepting of, you know, like your injections and things like that? Were they a help, or did you
I don't think it ever really came up. I don't think it ever really came up. They used to come along to some of the diabetes events, so like we would do fun things because they were for children, the events. So we would like go to a country park and have a barbecue, or go and play rounders and stuff like that. And they would come along, so it would be something fun that they got to do as well.
Oh, that's nice.
So it was up until a certain age, you know, when you're a teenager and everything that you once enjoyed suddenly becomes uncool. Up until that age, just diabetes was just, I got to do fun things that nobody else got to do. Used to like the family meetings were in the children's hospital, but the children's hospital over the past like 20 years has just been gradually closing down. So we used to play in like an abandoned hospital.
Oh, the mischief one could get up to there.
I know.
Oh,
It wasn't like the school side of it, but like classrooms type thing.
yeah. Oh,
It was
no.
great fun. Yeah.
And you were saying that you thought actually having type 1 was a benefit in some ways because it made you more responsible.
Yeah.
So you see it as a sort of positive, or are you finding a positive?
I think somewhere in the middle.
Uh-huh.
And my dad has always said that like I was always encouraged to speak up as a child because sometimes that was just vital for your survival, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like if I had to treat a hypo, I would have to kind of stand up for myself to do that at school.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think getting diabetes as a young age encourages that. I can't remember who said it, but being a gobby diabetic, being a bit
Yeah.
mouthy, I do think it encourages that in us, which is a good thing, as long as you're respectful about it, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, no. And I think, like you say, I think there's something about being resilient as well,
Yeah,
because I think we carry on come what may,
absolutely, yeah.
which I think is quite good. And like you say, what do you know what age, or can you remember what age that you started taking more responsibility for doing your own injections?
I done my first injection age 5.
Oh my.
At a family weekender, a diabetes weekender.
Uh-huh.
And then was kind of given an inch sort of day by day by my parents to have more control over doing my own injections. They would like
Mm-hmm.
dial up because I
Yeah.
know the numbers. But I would do them myself. And I really enjoyed doing that. It made me feel really cool and really powerful as a child as well.
Yeah. And that I can see that, because I know it's one thing which is totally different. I'm going to change it to about me, Kirsty. I was saying a bit ago when I sort of realised nobody has ever injected insulin into me apart from me.
Oh, that's cool.
And actually no, I was on a drip once when I was in hospital, but injections, drips don't count. I'm going to ignore that. I was in DKA. And I would find it very weird if somebody wanted to. It's like when they test your blood sugar in hospital. Do you know, like they do a finger prick and
Yeah,
whatever?
and they
It
use
just
those,
seems like,
yeah, the weird little clickers.
Oh,
You
I
not just
always
use
made them
mine.
use my pricker.
Yeah.
Like
I have let other
afterwards.
people do my injection over the years. Because people do get quite curious when you're doing an injection, and I'll be like, if I dial it up, do you want to put it in and press the button? And they're always a bit like, am I allowed? Can I do that? And I'm like, yeah, it's mine. You can do it if you want.
It's like other people testing the blood sugar.
Yeah.
And I always, whenever it's not happened often, but it has happened, and I'm always dreading the fact that it's going to be a wild reading. Do you know what I mean? That it's going to come back 23 or something. I think, oh, please don't be.
You have to be the Grim Reaper and ruin their life.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh no, don't. But no, I've not had that experience. So you're on injections. At what point? What age were you when you started on a pump?
I was 26.
Oh, so quite.
Yeah, I had asked for one, but it was the waiting lists issue, and I had to do like different, like the Daphne course and stuff like that, which I just dragged my heels a bit. But I also went through quite a spell of being rebellious with my diabetes in the way that I just kind of pretended I didn't have it for a few years. And
I think luckily, that's being rebellious. I think that's just being type 1.
And luckily, so far anyway, I've gotten away with it, and that is sheer luck. But I was given a trial of a Freestyle Libra in 2017. And I'd gone from never doing my blood sugar, doing my injections when I wanted to, really marching to the beat of my own drum and just doing what I needed to do to survive, basically. Which, although wasn't sensible, it did teach me valuable life lessons about diabetes and made me appreciate what I have now. But yeah, see the difference, and it sounds so silly. I'd had diabetes for 25 years at this point, and I was like, when you know your blood sugar and you act upon that, you feel so much better. And then it was maybe about 18 months after that, I got the Medtronic's 640, I think it was. And then COVID started, just as I was getting used to the pump. But I'd never give the pump back now. I'll have to take it from a cold dead hand.
I always say the same. I have to be honest. I didn't want a pump. I really didn't want one. And my consultant was like gradually working on me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had an awful experience anyway. And he was very like, right, we're making a plan. We're not leaving this room till we have a plan. And so it was sort of like, okay. And at that point, it must have been Traceba was just about to be launched.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew that they were going to get so many doses of it to trial.
Yeah.
But it wasn't there at the moment, but they were going to get that. And so he says, right, he said, either we turn onto a different, long acting, this new long acting and or there's the pump, because the pump would help and this, that and the other. And in my mind, I want to say no, but you know how in your head you're thinking, there's people who really want pumps and I'm being offered one, that sort of thing. So in the end, I said, well, what about pump? And so he was really joyful. And he says, look, I'll do a deal with you. Get a pump. Great. If you give it 6 months, if you don't like it, you give it me back and we try something else. And the next day I was virtually going to ring up and say, I don't want it. And like you say, I got it one day in the morning, one day. By the following morning, I wouldn't have given it up for no money.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I was the same. I don't even know what it was about it that I was kind of put off by. I think I thought it would be a lot more effort than it is.
I think with me it was more the psychological side of it, because it's like I carry around my diabetes with me. Whereas
it's like a ball and chain.
Well, it's not a ball and chain. I think it's psychological. When you're injecting, you're only different when you're physically injecting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Actually, whereas
it that way.
And that was the thing for me. It wasn't actually having it and carrying it. It was what it was a symbol of.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I sometimes would put my cannula and stuff like on the top of my bum, sort of like on my love handles, because it meant when I had a shower and that I couldn't see anything on my body.
That's really interesting.
So it was a psychological thing of just carrying around a reminder the whole time. And even though it worked really well for me, but now it doesn't bother me. But I know at the start it was, but the advantages definitely outweighed the disadvantages, that's for sure. So you are relatively new to pumping then?
Yeah. So I had the 640 for when did I get it? 2018, I think it was. And then when closed loop with Medtronic like 2 years ago today, I think actually. What day is it?
Oh wow.
It was the 6th of June, but 2 years ago.
Oh, and did you get a choice of pumps, or did you?
No, but I really like the one I've got, and I know quite a bit about the other pumps. And I think Medtronic is just the one that works for me. It's got quite an aggressive algorithm, which I need.
And I think also there is that reassurance of the familiarity if you've had Medtronic before.
Absolutely. Yeah, it would be like changing the type of phone that you have.
Yes.
But with much higher consequences.
Yes, there's a reassurance to, even if it's a different phone, it's got the same operating system.
Mm-hmm.
And since you've been on hybrid closed loop, has that made a big difference to you, or
humongous? Absolutely humongous. My HbA1c was always kind of between 75 and 85, and now it's been in the 40s for 2 years. God. It went down really quickly, and it's the biggest difference with closed looping is sleeping overnight.
Yes.
Now, if I wake up during the night, I don't even check my blood sugar. because I have learned to trust it. In the kind of peer support group, we all use different car analogies to describe the closed loop systems, like a self-driving car. You can there can't be two drivers of one car. And I always think it's funny because, as I say, I can't drive, but I'm using all these car analogies. But once I learned to trust the pump and trust it, know that that self-driving car is doing its job, oh my goodness, tenfold my diabetes has improved, and my mental health as well. The burden is really lightened.
Yeah.
So much space to worry about other things.
I think with me, it's even if for just because of life and things that happen, that I haven't got the time or space for it. I know that there's something there that's got my back. That
Yeah,
things aren't going to go really horrifically wrong.
yeah,
That most of it, it might not be ideal, but it will catch it.
yeah. It's like you've gone from being like an employee to a manager. You only get roped in when there's trouble.
And I do find that there are days where I do just forget. If
Yeah,
I'm doing something else, I sort of suddenly think, oh, maybe I ought to check and see what my CGM's saying, and doing that. Oh, that's really good. So it's been a real positive for you.
really, really positive. And my
So,
mum and dad get my blood sugars on their phone, which they love.
oh, how do you feel about that? I mean, you're obviously
Well,
happy with
you,
it.
you know, it's quite nice that they check in, and I think like 5 years ago I would never have done that, but because I feel better about diabetes now, I'm more willing to share that with people. But there was a time where I'd been on a night out and I came home and my blood sugar was low, and my dad phoned me and I was a bit tiddly. Um, and he was like, "You've been hypo for an hour. Are you doing something about it?" And I was like, "What do you want, David? Leave me alone." And he was like, "Have you had some Lucozade? Have you eaten something?" I was like, "Why? Why are you phoning me? It's 3 in the morning." He had to like talk me into getting something. So even when the pumpkin saved me, my dad was still there. So
Oh god, yeah. No, I think I would feel weird about sharing. Oh no, yeah, no, I think I would. Just, I remember listening to a podcast, and it was like a teenager, an older teenager, and the mother, and it was the child that had the type 1. It was an American one, and they were talking about things. And I don't know even if there was share at that point. He was on a CGM, but I'm not even sure if there was share because it's quite a few years ago.
yeah,
And it always struck me one thing, and I think the mother learnt something in this podcast, because they were sort of talking about it, and what were the good points, the bad points, and this, that. No, there must have been share. There must have been share. And he said, "Oh, one of the most irritating things was that his mum sees his blood glucose, but doesn't know what he's done." So he says 90%, 99% of the time, I've already done something. I'm dealing with it. I know what's happening, but it hasn't affected my blood sugars yet. Yet his
yeah.
mum's texting him to do something.
Oh, see, I think my parents learned quite quickly that I don't respond well to that.
And I suppose
Especially
you are
as an
a fully grown up adult, whereas he was a teenager. And it was quite funny because the mother sort of said, "Oh, I've never thought of it like that." And he says, "Oh, it'd be different if it," and I think a bit like you, sort of, I think he was at the age where alcohol was coming into the equation, maybe not legally, but it was coming into the equation.
It's there whether it's legal or not sometimes at that age. So.
Yeah, exactly. And he was sort of saying, "Oh, if some, he was sort of saying, oh, there's circumstances where it would be useful, but if he's at school doing his normal stuff, you know, he would have dealt with it," sort of thing. And the mum was saying, "Oh, okay, I'll try not to text." And she did say, she says, "I think it's more for me than it is for him."
It's so difficult being a teenager with diabetes and trying to kind of balance that relationship with your parents, though, because I remember my mum had obviously managed my diabetes for a long time, and then I went to secondary school and I'm doing it myself, and I think I'm a grown up and yada yada yada, all that at that age. And your diabetes is like nagging you almost and demanding your attention, and you feel like you've got no control over anything, and then you've got a parent nagging you about
Yeah.
general teenage stuff, but then also they're worried about your diabetes. Like back then, I just going to say something nasty about my mother. I won't do that. I just thought she was a difficult woman. Will we say no? She was just concerned.
Yes. And I think it must be very difficult for parents as well, because at
Absolutely.
what point and how much do you let go?
Yeah.
And I suppose it is one of those things that it's difficult because you know that your child's got to learn for themselves, and in learning you are going to make mistakes and things are going to go wrong.
Yeah.
But if you think, but that's my child's health,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like it's not like you get detention because you've not done your homework.
I know you can't just let them make that mistake and end up in a bad way.
But yeah, no, I feel that. But moving on a bit, because you've sort of on your hybrid closed loop,
Mm-hmm.
and saying that it's worked really well for you, and you're saying you were mentioning that you were a peer support worker on the national
Yes.
for the national onboarding service. So can you just tell us a bit about what the onboarding service actually is? You
Yeah.
know, just give us some context, because this is NHS Scotland, isn't it?
Yes. So it is
Yeah.
different. We are the chosen ones with this pathway. It is wonderful. So it is. So it's a national program. So everybody across Scotland that wants to go on a closed loop pump has the option to do it this way. They can still do in-person sessions, but the ones that we do are run over like the NHS version of Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So there is maybe 6 to 8 participants on these video sessions with a senior educator who are they are like well served DSNs that have also worked in like as reps for tech companies.
Mm-hmm.
Before the participants, so we call them participants, not patients. Before they even start the sessions, they get like a full phone call from one of the DSNs about what the system involves, the options of pumps that they have, and they get to choose from like all of them basically, all of them that are available on the NHS. There's this kind of myth that people only get the Libra and the Omnipod. That's not the case. So they get to choose, they get talked through the program. They then come along to the program. They get the opportunity to talk to the reps from the tech companies. There's sessions with dietitians where they like have lunch on camera. They go through the kind of key points that they need to know about the pump system, but it's very like open sessions. It's based around the kind of appetite and the needs of the team, the group that are onboarding. And then at the end, one of us will come in and just answer their questions. And it creates this like really nice, friendly, open environment where people can be honest about what they're doing. I can tell them everything I've done that goes against the rules, because you're handed a self-managed condition that you don't have to follow the rules.
Yeah.
Like you find your own way of doing things.
Really?
I know.
I follow those rules every day.
So they can say like the tricks that they do, and then the DSNs will be like, okay, well, if you're doing that, why are you doing that? What do you want the end result to be? I'll tell you how you can do that safely. Um, and then they get sent back to their home teams afterwards. But it lasts around 6 weeks. And there's been like 100% positive feedback from it from all the participants. And the
So
peer support workers get paid, so it's great.
so it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me a bit like a Daphne course, but
Kind
for
of, yeah.
starting hybrid closed loop, because that
Yeah.
sounds very to me that it's very, I'm going to call them patients, sorry,
No, do it.
patient led.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I'm going to get muddled up with my words. And Daphne, you could bring up any subject and discuss it, and then you had experts brought in that you could ask questions to in different scenarios.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. It's really, really good. I wish I could have onboarded like that.
So do you follow up afterwards, or are you just involved in that one session? Do you then feed through for if they have any questions later on when they actually start their pumps?
No, we just have the one session with them, but the program has only been running for just a year now.
Mm-hmm.
So they are looking at different ways to change it and how differently to get the peer support workers involved as well. And one of the discussions is about like an aftercare session, a 3-month follow-up type thing.
Yeah.
Just to see how else they're feeling about it. But they've onboarded a massive amount of people. It's been like 1,200 people
Wow.
over the past year. And only 20% of those were children under 18s, which I was quite surprised at. It's mainly been adults.
Do you think that's because a higher percentage of children already had hybrid closed loops? I'm only saying I don't know about the Scotland statistics
I'm not
versus
sure.
England, because obviously in pump
Mhm.
services, children have a lot higher percentage.
Yeah, they could have been, yeah. Because like and there's still been people onboarded through clinics. So I've wondered if maybe the parents are more comfortable having a sit down session with
Yeah.
somebody rather than on Zoom, because if you're in your house and you're overwhelmed, it can just make it worse sometimes.
Yeah. Yes. I can sort of, in fact, I'm quite surprised that they have parents doing it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the onboarding, and this is me. So this is before they actually start their pump. So it's like to help them choose a pump and be prepared for what having a pump and hybrid closed loop actually entails.
No, so they'll have done that before the first session. So the first session that they have is like an information session, and then I think it's at the end of the first session they switch on, or it might be the second session
Oh,
where
so
they
they've
have
all.
lunch that they switch on. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It was because you said you had the different companies there, and I was thinking,
So it'll be,
oh,
yeah,
does.
if there's like a group, if like this group is onboarding on Omnipod, it'll be a pod rep that comes
And
in.
oh,
They've got
okay, and that
tandem
was
reps and Medtronic reps and stuff like that come in. So it's dependent on the group.
okay. That makes more sense to me, because when you said that, I was thinking, oh, and one of my questions had been, are everybody in a group on the same system?
Yes, so there's different pathways. That there's completely new to pumps and sensors. There is groups that are already on a pod and starting a set, or already on a pump rather, and starting a sensor that can loop with that. There's the other way around. They're changing pumps to match their sensor, and then there is like upgrades, which is generally the Medtronic ones, where they go into like the G4 sensor or the Simplera, but it's more so the G4 at the moment. I think there's supply issues with the Simplera.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. And of the questions that you get asked, what do you think are the most common ones?
About drinking. How do people drink? Like alcohol, not just like juice. People ask about exercise and using like the either sports mode or temporary basal. They ask about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them seem to think that if they put the temporary basal on as soon as they start exercise, that's them covered, but that's not the case for everyone. Sometimes you have to go before or after, or sometimes you can put your temporary basal on for 6 hours and still need a snack in the middle. What else do people ask? People ask a lot about, like, with the Medtronic sensors especially, difficulty putting them on and reactions to like adhesive and stuff like that. I've got like terribly sensitive skin, so I do have like a list of products that I recommend.
Snap.
Yeah, the overlay tapes as well, that's a big one.
The origami, as I always call it.
But even like where they can put them, because a lot of them are stuck in that mindset of like the sensor goes in the back of the arm, the pump goes on your stomach. You can put it wherever you like it.
Yeah. Yeah, move it around a bit.
Yeah.
And before when you were onboarding, not the pump, but actually this service, were you given any training, or what was involved with actually becoming one of these peer support workers?
So there was like a full NHS interview. It was like over the phone and then a video call, where they asked about like our experience with peer support, what system we were on, and that sort of thing. So there's 8 peer support workers, and there's a mix of people using hybrid closed loops and people who are carers for people with hybrid closed loops. And it kind of varies across different systems as well. But they've kind of just said, like, we've hired you for you. It's your experience. There will be a medical professional there, so if you say anything wrong, they will disagree with you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But sometimes they'll say things and be like, "Oh, Kirsty, what do you think?" And I'll get to kind of tell them off in a way that's like, "Listen, I've done that too, but it is actually not very smart to do that." So it's almost like a good cop, bad cop type of thing. But they are all lovely, the DSNs. They're all really, really nice.
Yeah.
And one of them was my DSN, and the other done my onboarding when she was a Medtronic rep. So I've known them quite a while.
And I suppose even as healthcare professionals that obviously know, have quite a lot of experience onboarding people, they know what people do in the real world.
Oh, they do. Yeah,
but they can't tell you that's what people do in the real world. Whereas saying to you, "Oh, Kirsty, what would you do in that case?" They know that you're going to say what you actually do, which isn't what's recommended. That actually is what 90% of people actually do in the real world. And doing that.
They do.
So how often are you involved in courses? How regularly do the courses run?
I do about one a week. There's been a bit of a lull. Yeah, there's been a bit of a lull just now, and it's kind of back up and running because they didn't know if they were going to get the funding again from the Scottish government. But then they gave the new announcement, and it's back up and running. So it's really good. So it's like I do it like in my lunch hour once a week. Because they only last an hour, yeah. And I just tell my manager, "Oh, I might be late back from lunch," and she's like, "Yeah, that's fine. Do what you like."
Yeah, that's really good because that was one of my questions that I think you've already said. You sort of like, how was the program going? And you seem like it to be really positive feedback from it. But also, do you think it will continue being funded?
Yeah, they've got the recurring funding now.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Because actually, the funding amount for Scotland is quite high in comparison to the UK.
It is, yes.
England,
8.8 million. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot, yeah, compared to England.
And the costs for the onboarding team will be lesser this year because they've not got those like startup fees to cover as well.
Yeah.
Because the team's already established and they've got their computers. I don't know what else they would pay for, really.
And you've said already that the choices of hybrid closed loop are the same as we have in England.
Yeah, so the ones we've got, the Medtronic, the T-Slim, the Pod, and the Ipso.
Yeah.
Is it just the 4? I feel like there might be another one.
There was it Metrum or something, but I know that was withdrawn from England.
Maybe it's just the 4.
Now you're making me think as well. Oh, the Dana.
The Dana. Yeah, no, I don't think we do the Dana.
Yes.
I definitely don't do those sessions. I don't know anything about that pump.
I don't think that's the most popular pump.
Yeah.
I think a few people get it because you can DIY with it.
Right.
And so I suppose if you're a DIYer switching systems, I used to DIY. If you switch to that, if the commercial system doesn't work for you, you can always switch back to DIY. Just saying that people might think that. But I jumped from DIY to a commercial system, and yeah, I was fine with it. Annoyed to start with, but I've got used to it now.
I had way back when I first had the Libra, I had that little meow meow mayo mayo thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, it was terrible. It wouldn't stick to my arm. It was huge. It was bulky, and it never really worked. And then I had to they changed one of the apps that you had to use with it, and it told me I needed an Apple developer license. I was like, listen, that is not my job. I do not know what you're talking about.
Oh no, mine. I was using Dexcom anyway. In G5, was it even G4? I can't remember what I was on when I first, because years ago I started quite early, and then my pump that I used anyway became loopable, And it was one of those that initially I sort of said, oh, once it's been for a bit of a while and I'll start having a look to it, and within a month I'd bought a phone. I started setting it up and had done it.
Yeah, I don't think it
I
would
was
take me
already
very long to
moving.
make that jump either. It's like you can see the Emerald City, you're going for it.
Yeah, it sort of started slowly, and then I just sort of carried on evening after evening, sort of like, oh, I might as well. I'll try and build the app. I've never done it before, and do that. And well, I'll just try. I always say that and I think Dana Lewis actually said that people think that as type 1s were risk averse, but actually what people don't realise is that we actually dice with death every day.
Absolutely, we're never done playing with fire.
Yeah, it's sort of like, and that our perception of what's risky is different to somebody who hasn't got type 1. And I
Yeah.
always think that I had a second-hand phone off eBay and I was handing over my life to it.
That's not even hyperbole, that's the God's honest truth.
I know my brother-in-law, he was like, well, how do you know it works? I'm like, well, it does. People have tried it, it's fine. My Dexcom will alarm if there's a problem. I know he was a bit horrified.
my flatmate will make fun of me. She'll say like, oh, you'll only cross the road at a green man, but you will do a rage bolus. Like,
oh, dang.
She's like, you won't let a car kill you, but you might injure yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And do you think because this is like online training, and this is one of my thoughts, do you think that the participants in those trainings, do they build a rapport and carry on afterwards, maybe meeting up?
Oh, they do. It's quite common for them to like set up a WhatsApp group or swap each other's emails.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, because they are kind of dotted around Scotland. Like it's not that common that they would maybe live in the same area where they could meet up, but they do establish like virtual relationships.
Yeah, they carry
which is
on.
really sweet. Yeah, and it's like across all age groups. I've seen people like in their 70s going on closed loops.
Yeah.
It's not just kind of younger people. It's people from demographics that you would think would be tech averse are still going on and doing it.
I think my personal opinion, because I had a friend who, I'm trying to think how old she was when she went on it. She must have been about 70, late 60s anyway. And I think people don't realise that in today's age, people do use phones. People do use smart TVs, have had jobs that have involved computers. Do you know what I mean? It's not like
they've grown up with them.
You think of your own grandmother, and like my nan, I think the most complex thing she had in her house was probably the telly or a radio, and that was it. But life's changed now.
Yeah.
And I think the sort of I think sometimes people think old people can't cope with things, but actually old people aren't the old people of the past.
Because if you think like an 80-year-old now, computers have been around for 40 years. They would have been 40 when the first computers came out. Would I expect a 40-year-old now to see a laptop as a new thing and be like, oh, I could never touch that, what is this? Like, no, you wouldn't.
And there will be people who are like that, but I think there is likely to be of any age.
Yeah.
And I think that's more maybe social circumstances, or not having access to something rather than whatever. But I would imagine
there's like socioeconomic reasons for it.
There must be a group that I think didn't have it at school.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have computers at school. Did once I got to uni, but not at school. And so they didn't get it there. And then if their job didn't need them to use it, I can see that somebody could have gone through. But I think that's sort of like a generational thing that all age out, sort of aging out, isn't it? do that. And do you know if there are any talks about expanding this into other areas of the UK?
Well, I do know that they are interested in it, getting it out to like the full Four Nations. But I don't know much about that.
No.
I know that it's been discussed at the DLEA, the Diabetes Lived Experience Advisory Board. They've discussed it. They work through Diabetes UK, and I do know that Partha Card is like well aware of it and aware of the success. And obviously he's like a freedom fighter for diabetes, so he will be on a soapbox talking about it one day when he gets a minute, because I know he does campaign for a lot of different things, and he does work very hard. But like the programme is run by like Scotland's version of Partha, Brian Kennan. He was the national lead for that in Scotland for a long time. So Brian can do it. I don't see why Partha can't.
Yeah, and the way NHS England, or is there an NHS England anymore?
I was just thinking that. Did they
do you know what I mean?
do something to
it's
it?
changing with the oh god, I forget what replaced the CCGs. They went to something else, and now there's some like IS. It's not IST, but it's something like an IS something, ISDs, and I think they're being altered. Sorry,
ICB
could be
Integrated Care Board.
That's right, but aren't they being changed now and reduced in number? Because at the same time as NHS England's sort of gone, hasn't it? Yeah, they're having a big reshuffle because, hey, why not reshuffle it again?
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's more difficult. So outside of your the National Onboarding Service, are you involved in any other peer support initiatives?
Yes. So during COVID, I was a peer support facilitator with Diabetes Scotland. So set up a group that that was run through them, and that's how I met Paul Niven. If you know him, he's Nivs.
Yeah.
On Twitter, we ran that group together, and then was part of the Tech Collective, and have been along to the Type 1 events that are up and down the UK. They're family weekenders. Oh, they're exhausting, but they're great fun. But there is a pause on those at the moment for funding reasons. I've also been involved with, now I always forget the name of this one. It's called like T1 Together Today.
T1 Together, in it. That's from Diabetes UK, isn't it?
No, it's so there's Together Type 1. My little brother works for Diabetes UK, and he's the something manager lead of that. But this is a different one. Their logo is Tom, you were there. What was it called? Was it Together Type 1 Today or something like that? I can't remember what they were called, but that was like quite a long conference. And I was in the kids group anyway, so I looked after 2 4-year-olds and had a great time. I always find myself with the 4-year-olds at these events. What a chaotic but wonderful group of people that age is.
I was just going to say, best fun though.
Fantastic. What else have I done? I'm kind of on a little bit of a pause just now because I felt like I was saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
So I have taken a little step back from that, and the majority of things that I do now are to do with the onboarding team. I was at an event last week that I've never felt. In the morning, I had a lot of imposter syndrome, and then at the afternoon, I was like, no, I've actually earned a seat at this table because the table is talking about me and my people. So, but it was a digital health and care innovation event where there was only about 25 people there. I was speaking on a panel, and I was the only person there that wasn't like a professor, doctor, genius person. I spoke over my head for a while, and then I was like, no, I'm actually just going to be myself and be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, but you should include people with diabetes in this conversation. We're powerful in a very meaningful way.
Yes. Oh no, I agree with that, and I do agree with you that you do have to. I think that most of us have gone through that phase where we're doing lots of different things, and then you start sort of pulling back a bit. just
Yeah.
because you're sort of like, actually,
It was. I think it was after
it's
being
interesting, and it's,
I was
all
yeah,
this, but
I was a DDoc voice at DUKPC this
I was
year,
just about to say
and
that
then
because I think I met you at the drinks.
yeah, and then immediately went to my brother's wedding, which was like a 4-day wedding, and it was after that I was like, "What are you doing? Put your feet up! Stop it!"
I'm
I was
I'm
so
going to ask you a
tired.
question, but it's not about you. But I'm just intrigued.
Uh-huh.
Does your brother have type 1 as well?
No,
Who
he
works for
doesn't, but we say he's an ally.
No, that's fine. No, it was just when you said he worked for them, and I was thinking, oh,
Mhm.
I just wonder if he had or hadn't. That's
Yeah, he
no
started
problem.
as a youth support worker and then has gradually worked his way up.
Yeah.
And he's like the type 1 program lead manager.
Oh no,
He's got a big
that's
job.
good.
I don't really know what it is, but I know
I was
he
just being nosy.
with,
I'll be
with the young
totally
people.
honest, and that's why I said, do feel free to tell me to mind my own business because it's your brother, not you. And
No,
I'm saying,
I'll always
oh, has
talk
your
about
brother
Ian.
got this?
He's a lovely boy. If you ever get the chance to meet him, jump on it because he's a star. Tom's met him. He's a diamond.
Oh. I don't know if I will get that opportunity. I'm not saying I'll jump on him because I could get arrested. But I might say hello.
He's down in London a lot.
Is he?
Yeah, he's always down for work at the DUK offices.
At the head office. What is it?
Yeah.
Lawrence House.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting place.
Mhm.
But doing that. Right, well, I'm going to hand back over to Claire for the next section.
Mhm.
Because I've rambled on for not way too long because it's been really interesting talking to you. So Claire, can I throw back to you?
Of course you can, Flipper.
Thank you.
Kirsty, I've just got a couple of
Hello
questions left.
Uh-huh.
You've joined Diabetes Chat. What do you like about the community and what inspired you to be part of the team?
Well, I've always liked it and always tried to drop in. But it's just really nice. Like, I'm just lying in my bed just now, sitting staring at my laptop, feeling like I'm sitting in a room with my pals or like sitting at a bar chatting or something like that. There's something very kind of warm and friendly about it. And you guys, like, I've known people in the diabetes community for like quite a while, a good number of years. I've never met any of you guys before, and I wouldn't have had I not hopped on this one day and chatted. So it's really nice. I always like meeting other people with diabetes. They're generally always lovely. So yeah, I joined to make friends.
We're all friends. We're all family in this group.
It's nice.
What are your hopes and aspirations for yourself and diabetes care and management for the future?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a big question. I would like everyone with diabetes, while we still have diabetes, well, there's like it's not going anywhere, to have like the gift of choice when it comes to how they want their diabetes care to be given to them, whether they want that remotely, whether they like going to a hospital, whether they pens, they don't want a pump pushed down their throat at every opportunity, and to be able to kind of talk to people of the same mindset. Like, there's enough of us out there. If you want to talk about anything with diabetes, there will be somebody there that agrees with you. So I would like people to have choice and friendship when it comes to their diabetes and its management. Does that answer the question? I feel like that was a 2-part question.
Yeah, that answers the question because I think that's what we all want, really.
Yeah.
Is to help people.
I'm very pro-choice when it comes to people's diabetes. You deal with it how you want to deal with it because it's yours. Yeah.
And my last question is, where can people follow you on your socials? Are you on X or are you on Instagram or are you on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on everything. I even set up a Blue Sky, but I've never actually used it. Everything is Kirsty Francais. Is my second name is French, just like the word French. But because I work in complaints, I did change it in case people found me, because I'm an anxious person. I don't think anyone's going to be looking for me. But you never know. But that's what I'm on, everything. And you're all more than welcome to follow or add me. I am a yapper, so be prepared.
Okay, just looking for.
Oh, I think Claire's dropping out.
A wee bit there, yeah.
Wait a bit out. So I will jump in and Claire can stomp on me if she comes back. Just to say thank you so much. It's been lovely getting to know you a bit more. I look forward to working with you in the future on the chats. And if everything's all right, shall we just open it up to a community chat? And if you're hanging around for a little bit, if anybody has any questions or follow-up questions on anything we've chatted about, I hope you're happy to carry on chatting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite nice talking about myself for a while.
Even though I'm sorry I did bring myself into it a bit.
No,